Shedeur Sanders didn't just show up to training camp to collect a paycheck. He came to win a job, to earn his place, and to prove once again that he doesn't just belong in the NFL. He can thrive in it. But if the first weeks of Brown's camp are any indication, the system doesn't care how hard he works. Because right now, that system is designed to keep him exactly where he is. On the sideline out of sight and throwing passes to nobody. Literally. In a moment that should feel like a parody but isn't, Shedeur Sanders, former college star, son of one of the most iconic figures in football history. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. And one of the most commercially viable rookies in the NFL is being asked to develop as a quarterback by tossing footballs to equipment staffers. No wide receivers. No running backs. Just cones, towels, and trainers catching balls in drills meant for optics, not progress. And here's the part that's harder to digest. Every other quarterback in the building is getting actual reps. Not great reps. Not game-changing ones. But real reps with real teammates. Because that's how chemistry is built. That's how timing is developed. That's how confidence is earned. You don't become a quarterback by practicing against air. You become one by going head-to-head with defenders, reading live coverages, and syncing up with your receivers, things Shedeur simply hasn't been allowed to do, which raises one very obvious question. Why not? And more to the point, what are they so afraid of? Because if Shedeur was dropping passes left and right, if he was blowing assignments or showing a lack of understanding, you can bet the media would have pounced. But the silence? The lack of any legitimate criticism about his on-field reads, his motion, his footwork, or even his command in the huddle. That silence is telling. It means there's nothing to report, nothing wrong with how he's performing, except for the part where he's not allowed to perform. And that's where things start to get ugly, because this isn't just some case of a rookie waiting his turn. This feels intentional, like sabotage dressed up in khakis and a whistle. The kind of sabotage that's subtle on the outside, but deeply corrosive on the inside. The kind that stalls your growth just long enough to let someone else take your spot and lets the narrative shift before the truth ever sees daylight. The truth is, if Shedeur Sanders were being given the same reps as the other quarterbacks, there's a very real chance he'd be climbing the depth chart. And that might be the real problem. Not his ability, not his experience. But the fact that he could disrupt a quarterback pecking order that was clearly written in Sharpie before camp even started. Let's talk about those other quarterbacks for a second. You got Dillon Gabriel, a third-round pick whose resume is nowhere near Shedeur's in terms of big game experience, adversity, or production. Yet Gabriel has been plugged into drills with second and third-team receivers almost from day one. You've got Kenny Pickett, a journeyman trying to restart his career after flaming out in Pittsburgh. He's being treated like a trusted veteran. And of course, Joe Flacco, a respected name, a Super Bowl winner, yes, but also a quarterback in the twilight of his career, brought in as a mentor, not a long-term solution. Flacco's getting more reps than Shedeur, too. What do all three have in common? They were either drafted higher, are seen as safe, or fit the mold of quarterbacks that NFL coaching staffs have historically been more comfortable handing the reins to. It's not about race alone, but to ignore that factor entirely would be naive. Because Shedeur doesn't just bring a strong arm and clean mechanics. He brings presence, confidence. He's charismatic. He's sharp. He knows his value. And he isn't afraid to carry himself like someone who's built for the moment. And unfortunately, that kind of energy doesn't always mesh well with coaching staffs who still live by the rookies should be quiet and invisible playbook. Let's not pretend this is unprecedented. We've seen this before. Remember how long it took Lamar Jackson to be seen as a legitimate passer, even after he'd already won MVP? Remember the way Cam Newton's leadership was questioned more than his stats ever were? There's a long, well-documented pattern of black quarterbacks being asked to not just be good, but perfect. Quiet, humble, obedient. Show leadership, but don't be too assertive. Win games, but don't be flashy. And definitely don't call out the double standards. Shedeur isn't breaking those rules. He's ignoring them altogether. And for that, it looks like he's being punished. But what the Browns coaching staff seems to underestimate is Shedeur's mental resilience. This is a player who came from an HBCU to a Power 5 program and proved everyone wrong. He did in front of packed stadiums, hostile crowds, and media scrutiny that would have broken lesser players. He did it while getting hit more than any quarterback in Division I football and still finished the season as one of the most accurate and productive passers in the country. This is not a guy who folds under pressure. If anything, pressure is where he thrives. And right now, the Browns are just giving him more fuel. Every missed rep, motivation. Every ignored practice highlight, added fire. Every media outlet that focuses on his off-field distractions instead of his leadership and professionalism, just another chip on his shoulder. And let's be real, Shedeur Sanders doesn't need to start today. He's already shown he's playing the long game. He's preparing the right way. He's learning the playbook. He's bonding with teammates. He's studying tape. He's controlling the things he can control. But what the Browns risk here isn't just missing out on a great quarterback. It's creating a toxic environment that sends a message to every future rookie. Not just Shedeur. That performance doesn't matter here. That the team would rather protect the status quo than elevate talent. That politics, not merit, will always win. And in a league where culture determines success, that's how you lose more than games. You lose people. You lose the locker room. You lose free agents. You lose fans who were once excited about a new era of Browns football. Shedeur's story should have been the beginning of that new era. A story of redemption for the Browns, a franchise finally getting it right by embracing a new kind of leader. But instead, it's become a case study in how franchises can still, even in 2025, sabotage their own future by refusing to evolve. The silver lining? Shedeur's not going anywhere. Not mentally, not spiritually, not emotionally. He's locked in, regardless of the chaos around him. And that, in the end, might be what saved his career, because no matter how badly he's being mishandled, the league is watching. Other coaches are watching. Players across the NFL are watching. And they're not seeing a guy who's sulking or blaming everyone around him. They're seeing a professional, a fighter, a quarterback who deserves a real shot. And when he gets it, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else, everyone will remember the kid they made throw to towel boys instead of teammates and still came out on top. Because here's the truth, you can't stop talent. You can only delay it. And Shedeur Sanders? He's coming. Let's be brutally honest. If Shedeur Sanders were any other rookie quarterback with his stats, pedigree, mental poise, and media presence, we wouldn't be having this conversation. There'd be no questions, no development timeline, no manufactured competition. He'd already have his own locker, his own receivers, and a package of plays custom-built around his strengths. But because Shedeur doesn't play the game by their rules, because he's unapologetically confident and media savvy, and refuses to shrink himself to fit into a box, he's being punished for it. Let's not forget, this is a quarterback who stepped into pack, 12 with a target on his back, at a program in total flux, behind the worst offensive line in the conference, and still dropped 500 yards on TCU in Week 1. He didn't just lead the offense. He was the offense. He made off-platform throws, manipulated defenses, ran a complex system, and never cracked under pressure. And now, the Cleveland Browns want us to believe he's not ready to take reps with actual NFL receivers? Come on, this isn't about readiness. It's about resistance. Resistance to a new mold of quarterback the NFL is still trying to understand. One who's not just talented, but empowered. One who knows his worth before the league has a chance to dictate it. One who came into the draft already wearing the weight of expectation, fame, and scrutiny, and has still carried himself like a pro. And while he's doing that, the Browns are staging quarterback reps like a high school theater audition, giving lines to everyone but the obvious lead. Joe Flacco, the vet, Dylan Gabriel, the favorite son of this regime, even Kenny Pickett, who already fizzled in one AFC North city. Everyone gets a scene. Everyone but Shedeur. And what do they expect? That he's going to quietly fade into the background? That he's going to keep tossing routes to assistant trainers while a quarterback with a fraction of his instincts gets first-team work? That's not how greatness works. You don't bench Muhammad Ali because someone else showed up to camp first. You don't tell Serena to wait her turn on the practice court. And you sure as hell don't make Shedeur Sanders stand in line behind quarterbacks he's already passed on performance curve. But instead of supporting that talent, the Browns seem more interested in managing the optics. They want to maintain the illusion of a fair competition while shielding the fact that Shedeur's shadow is already looming too large. Because once you give him real reps, you lose the excuse. Once the tape shows him syncing with first-string receivers, there's no more hiding behind the he's learning narrative. At that point, you either have to elevate him or admit you never intended to. And the thing is, fans see it. Players see it. Reporters are starting to whisper about it. You don't need a press credential to recognize what's happening. There's an uncomfortable tension brewing in that quarterback room. Not because Shedeur is stirring it, but because everyone else is feeling the pressure to justify why the best guy isn't getting a shot. And what do you do when your carefully constructed depth chart starts to crumble under the weight of its own contradiction? You distract. You shift the spotlight. You let whispers about his maturity or off-field decisions creep into the conversation. Speeding tickets, social media flash, a cocky demeanor. All of a sudden, those become the story. Not the footwork, not the arm strength, not the film room obsession or the relationships he's building with teammates behind the scenes. Just the noise. Just enough noise to make it seem like maybe keeping him on the bench is responsible. But again, let's put that in context. Other rookies have made worse mistakes. Bigger names have had actual red flags, DUIs, suspensions, locker room clashes, and still walked into day one starter status with less talent and far less grace. So when Shedeur shows up, humble but confident, accountable but unwilling to shrink, the double standard is loud. It's systemic, and it's exhausting. Because here's what's really at stake. Not just a spot on the roster, not just some preseason drive with the twos. It's the career arc of a player who could redefine what a modern quarterback looks like. And if the Browns mishandle this, they're not just delaying progress. They're risking being left behind entirely. This league moves fast. It doesn't wait for conservative play callers to catch up. The franchises that win consistently, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the 49ers, adapt. They evolve. They build around their best players, not their safest picks. And right now, Cleveland is still stuck trying to force square pegs into round rolls, terrified of what happens if they let someone truly new take control. But Shedeur Sanders isn't asking for permission. He's preparing for inevitability. Every night he stays late, throwing into nets while the stadium clears out. Every morning he's the first one in, studying film of coverages he hasn't even gotten to face yet. He's preparing for the moment when opportunity comes. Not if, but when. Because someone's going to break ranks. Some assistant coach is going to leak the truth about what they're seeing. Some scout is going to raise his hand in a meeting and say, he's the guy. And when that happens, the whole facade comes down. And when the smoke clears, Shedeur is going to be standing there, same poise, same hunger, same fire, but with a ball in his hand. Finally, because talent like that doesn't disappear. You can't bury it under rep counts or meeting notes. And you can't keep fans from seeing what's obvious on the field. Eventually, even the most stubborn regimes have to fold to reality. And when they do, that's when legends are born. Because Shedeur isn't just playing for the Browns. He's playing for every young quarterback who was told they were too flashy, too loud, too different. He's playing for every player who got passed over for not fitting the mold. For every kid who was told they needed to wait their turn, even when they were clearly ready. He's playing for his own name. And he's building one hell of a legacy, one silent workout at a time. So keep the cones out. Let the other guys take the spotlight in scrimmage. Let the media ignore the film. Shedeur Sanders is watching. He's learning. He's waiting. But when the opportunity finally comes, and it will, don't call it a breakout. Call it what it is. The moment everyone else finally caught up to what Shedeur Sanders already knew. He was ready from day one. They just weren't. And as the days stretch into weeks, the weight of Cleveland's quarterback mismanagement starts to feel less like growing pains and more like sabotage in slow motion. The coaching staff continues to sideline the most promising rookie in camp under the paper-thin guise of development, but everyone paying attention knows better. It's not that Shedeur Sanders isn't being groomed to start. It's that he's being prevented from competing at all. This isn't about him needing more time to adjust to NFL speed. He adjusted to it when he dropped 510 yards on TCU while running for his life behind a cardboard cutout O-line. It's not about earning trust, because he's already earned it from his teammates, several of whom have started posting cryptic support on social media, likes on free Shedeur tweets, reposting training clips with fire emojis, and subtle praise in interviews when asked about quarterback depth. You don't have to be a body language expert to see who the locker room believes in. So what's really going on? At this point, it looks less like a quarterback competition and more like a franchise power struggle. You've got a head coach in Kevin Stefanski who's fighting to keep control of his roster, and to him, Shedeur represents volatility. Not because he's undisciplined or unpredictable, he's not, but because he forces the team to change the game plan, change the locker room hierarchy, change the narrative. Stefanski built his entire offensive system around quarterbacks who manage, not elevate. Shedeur, by nature, is an elevator. Then there's the front office, quietly trying to navigate ownership's growing impatience. Jimmy Haslam reportedly isn't thrilled by what he's seeing, especially with fans already murmuring about how they've got another Deshaun situation brewing. Except this time, it's not about scandal. It's about mishandling a generational talent. And Haslam, who made a very public bet on Deshaun Watson as a long-term solution, knows that Shedeur could quickly shift that legacy for better or worse. And let's be clear, this kind of dysfunction doesn't stay internal for long. NFL teams are like high school cafeterias. Everyone knows everyone's business by second period. Word is already spreading around the league that something's off in Cleveland. Scouts are requesting extra tape. GMs are checking in with agents. Quarterback coaches from rival teams are quietly saying what Browns fans are starting to scream: give him the damn reps. But instead, Shedeur gets another day of isolation drills, another day of throwing against air, another day where he watches quarterbacks with less arm strength, less command, and less future take the snaps he should be getting. So he does the only thing he can do. He keeps showing up. It's quiet defiance. He doesn't storm into meetings. He doesn't blast the team in interviews. He just laces up, grabs a ball, and goes to work. While the media speculates and the coaching staff postures, Shedeur keeps grinding like a starter,